Hi guys, good evening. Let's get started for today's session. Let me share my screen. Can you all see my screen? Can anyone confirm? Yeah, okay. Thanks for confirming. Okay. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, just now saw the chat here. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for asking. Hope you all guys doing good. Okay. So moving on to the technical part today. So in the last two classes, so we saw some basics of JavaScript. And then we saw in the first class we saw what is the basics of npm. So what is an npm and some basic commands that are related to npm, like install, configuration, uninstall, and some more things. Okay, same way. Then the next class we saw the javascript part that are very specific to your react. Okay, something like ES6. And today we will be seeing so then we saw the introduction to react. So what is a react, and something very theoretical, what is the difference between a normal component and a class component and other things. Okay, so some basic things that we saw today. Let's go ahead with some practical sessions today. So let's get started with some writing some code in react. Okay, so using our JSX. So I mentioned you about JSX, right? So JSX is nothing but a combination of your JavaScript and HTML. So we write both in the same place. So that's what we are going to do. Let's see it today. Okay. Yeah. So before starting with your um, React application, okay, I need to show you one thing. So I mentioned you about the npm commands, something like npm install and npm install that particular package name. And if you want to install a particular version, so we need to use certain things. So this is what we saw on that day. So npm install, update, configuration, and much more things like checking the versions. Okay, so I missed to add one more thing here. Okay, that is something called a global package. For example, in my package.json, I have a package called Lodash. Okay, so which is something like dependency, right? So I mentioned you about the dependencies and difference between the dependency and dev dependency. So here I have a package called Lodash. Okay, and I told you an example of something like ESLint as a dev dependency. So for example, you have multiple projects in your system. Okay, uh, everything is a Node.js or everything is a React application. So consider in that way. Okay, consider you have around 5 to 6 applications that are running in React. Okay, and you need to use a particular package in all the applications. For example, I mentioned you about ESLint, right? So ESLint is a package that is going to align your code. So I told you an example, or take an example of Lodash, okay, or take an example of ESLint. So whatever the thing. So ESLint is a package that is going to align your code. So this particular package, for example, you take this particular package, and this is going to be used in all the applications that you use in your system. Okay, in that case, okay, so you need not install it in that particular folder itself. Okay, for example, whenever we install that particular package like npm install ESLint, a package name, okay, all your packages will be installed inside the node modules here, right? So that's what I mentioned you on that day. So inside that particular folder itself, project folder itself, suppose you have multiple projects, if you want to install that particular package, or if you want to use that particular package in all the applications, okay, you can install them something globally in one place and use it in multiple applications. And that's the thing called here. I want to add one more command. So npm install, so what are the package name? So package name here, okay, just add -g. Okay. So what it means is it will install that particular package globally. Okay. So globally means so your npm will be installed in certain folder, right? For example, in the case of Windows, it will be stored in your C drive, and inside that C users and the particular there will be a folder for each and every app that you install. Same way, there will be a folder for npm there, okay, in your root folder, and there your package will be installed. Okay. So using that, your application will work. Okay. So that is something called -g, installing the package globally. Okay. So I will show you an example. So I'm going to install a package. So it is there is no need to have go to that particular folder. Okay, you can install anywhere. So see here, I'm in my home folder. Okay, so I'm not inside like desktop and inside your particular package, something like this. Okay, so see here. So I'm not now I'm in that particular folder. So I'm in the root folder now. Okay, you can install a package globally. Okay, so npm install. I'm going to install a package called ESLint. Okay. If you want to install that particular package globally, so what is the reason to install globally? All the application inside your system can use that particular package. So if I do this, so it will install as we expected, but the folder I told you all, if you install it in that particular folder, it will install in the inside your node module side. But in the case of global, okay, it will install into a particular folder from something like users, my name here and npm. Or in the case of you, there will be something called npm folder, and inside that those packages will be installed. Okay, so that's the thing here. So basically, there will be a folder called node in your application. Okay, so there will be a folder called node. In that particular folder only, your application, the global application, the global packages that you install will be available. Okay, or if you want to know the folder, okay, so it will be something like here. See, users, my in your username, and there will be a node module. Okay, so global packages, so that will be installed here. So if you run this particular command npm root, it will show you the root folder. Okay, so all your global packages will be installed in that particular folder. Okay, so that's all about your npm install, the package name, and -g. Okay, so this particular folder here, if you have installed, right, so you need not mention ESLint inside this particular folder or here in your package.json anywhere. Okay, you can install it anywhere. It's not an issue at all. Okay, so that's all about your global package. Okay, so I forgot to mention on that day. Okay, so I just added this. So why do I say this now? So that's the question here. So usually whenever you so there may be multiple packages, but whenever you use something called global packages, what it means is I have installed ESLint, right? So ESLint, so I can use a command called ESLint. See here, I can use ESLint. Suppose if I do something randomly, it will throw me an error. This command is not found. Okay, same way you can, if you can write anything here, the command not found. But if I install particular package globally, so I can use it as a command line tool. Okay, so same way. So can be an uninstall package globally. Yeah, you can. So you can uninstall a package as well. Okay. So in order to start with your React application, so you need a package called create React app. Okay. So I will go here. So in my npm, I will go to that particular package. So create React app. So see here, this is the package that we are going to use in order to create a sample React application. Okay, so this is the package that has been suggested by your React documentation itself. Okay, so whenever you use this particular package, okay, so the command is, so this is the command, create React app, and you need to provide your app name here. Okay, so that it will create you the folder. So whatever the folder that you need, it will create a folder and do all the configurations. Like for example, React may need some packages, so all the packages will be installed, and everything is done by your create React app itself. Okay, so once you do that, and it will create everything. Okay, so you can just run your application and your React application will be ready. Okay, so in order to do this, so in order to install create React app, or in order to use this particular command, so basically what you need to do here is create React app, and that particular app name here. So you need to mention, for example, I'm going to create an app called Gubi app. If you enter it, okay, so it will create your folder inside whatever the folder that you are, okay, with all the configurations that are needed for your React application. Okay, so in order to access this create React app, okay, so we need to install this particular package globally. Okay, so something like npm install create react app -g, or there is one more thing called npx. I think someone asked me this question, what is the difference between npm and npx? See here now, I'm going to create react app documentation here. So this is the documentation. Sorry. So this is the documentation. So this is the website. I will share you the URL at the end of the session. Okay. So see here, npx create react app and my app. So this is the documentation. So when I come to this particular point, okay, so you may need to know what is npm and what is npx. Okay, so that's the question here. So I'm going to explain how create react app was previously and how it is now. Okay, so before in the before versions of your create react app, okay, so what we need to do is we will be installing that particular package globally. Npm install create react app, okay, -g. Okay, so this is the one. Then once we install them globally, we can we will be it will be allowing us to use a command called create react app. Okay, so create, you can directly type this in command prompt. So I will have it in this case. So command prompt, okay, create react app, and you can mention your app name. Okay, something like this. Okay, so this is please again please have a extra understanding on this. Okay, so see here now. So whenever you install a particular package globally, where it will be installed? So I told you it will be installed in your node modules folder, that is in your root folder here. Okay, so there will be a users and there will be your name. So in the case of C, in case of Windows, there will be C folder inside that users and your username and node modules. Okay, or there may be like there will be a folder called node. Okay, so it might be there. Okay, see here, this is the folder that it is been installed. Okay, so this is the case. So whenever you install the particular package, create react app package will be fetched from your npm repository, and it will be having it in the node modules folder. Okay, so that's what we saw here, and same applies to your global package. So once you install the particular package, you can use that package name and the corresponding here. Okay, so this is npm. Okay, so then what is npx? So that's the question here. Okay, so npx, same. So I'll take that scenario. So npx create react app here. So Groovy app. Okay. So what is the difference between these two things? Okay. It is npx is nothing but a combination of these two things. Okay. So that's the thing. So whenever you install like this in this way, what will happen? It will install your create react app source code from the npm repository and store it inside the node modules. Okay. So once it is done, you make use of create react app. Okay. But in the case of npx, what will happen here is same way, create react app will be downloaded from your npm repository, and then automatically this particular create react app, this particular line here, right? So it will automatically do those things. Okay, so you can mention that particular name and it will be created automatically. Instead of having two steps, you can have just one step. Okay, so npx will what will it do? It will install the particular package and the command that you want to do, right? So it will also will happen. Okay, so both the things. So that's the difference between your npm and npx. So where both are for your global packages. Okay, I mentioned you the global package here, right? So both are for the global packages. To have the combination of both, there is something called npx. So npx, the particular package name, it will install the particular library in your root node module, and whatever the thing that you command that you need. So create react app, GUI app, right? So same way here. So I can have app name here as well. So okay, so the combination of these two things, we can achieve them in npx. Okay, so that's how the documentation of your create react app suggests. Okay, so let's get started. So this is some short intro of installing the package globally. Okay, so far clear on this? Can you move on to the react part? Yeah, can everyone confirm? So before moving on to the next. Okay, so now let's get started with some sample app. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to my desktop now. Okay, so because I'm going to create an app there. Okay, so here I'm in my desktop. Okay, so what will happen here? Okay, so inside my desktop, I'm going to create my new React application. Okay, so how to do that? So npx create React app. Okay, so in the until this stage, if you do this, np create React app will be downloaded into your root node module. Okay, then whatever the operation that you want to know, you know, to create a app, right? So you can give an um, file here, GUI app. So this is something specific to 241 weekday. Okay, so this is the app name that I'm giving here. Okay, so if I do this, see now, a folder has been created inside my desktop, something called GUI app 241 and weekday. Okay, and so it will create a package.json by default. Okay, it will install all the packages. For example, React DOM. So these are all the packages that your application need. Okay, so React DOM, React scripts. These are the two things that are dependency for your application. Okay, so all of them will be installed by default. So we need not do anything. Everything will be ready once this installation is completed. Okay, so that's the purpose of your create React app. Okay, so once this is going to end now, see now. So your installation part is done. Okay, so I'm going to particular folder here. So okay, I'm in that particular folder. Okay, so let me open that particular folder here in my Visual Studio Code. So I will show you the documentation. So it's in desktop, and I told you, right, it will create you a folder. See, it has created a folder here. So see here now, I told you there will be something called package.json here. See, all the necessary things will be automatically installed in your application. See, so the name I told you already, version and private, the dependencies, the scripts, okay, and some other properties which are specific to USLint. Okay, so you need not consider these things now. Okay, so for now I told you what are all the dependencies. These are all the scripts, name and version and other things. Okay, so this is what I mentioned you on that day. Okay, so your create React app will do everything for you. So we need not consider, or we need not um, take extra efforts to do these things. Okay, so that's the thing. So this is the thing here. Okay, now also inside the node models, those particular packages will be installed here. Okay, and now let's get started. Okay, so in order to start the application, so they have a script here. So npm start script. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to start an application, npm start. So this is how we need to start the application, because by default they will give you the commands start and other things. Okay, so I have started my sample React application now. So by default, the port is 3000. Your application will be running in localhost 3000. See, your application is now ready. Okay, so your sample React application. So your create React app will give a sample configuration, something like a React's logo, that is a GIF. Okay, that is with some background. Okay, so this is a first application that's been given by your React. Okay, so now let's move on to see the code or the folder structure and other things. Okay, so once you know that, we can start with your application. Okay, let's see. The first file that is going to be rendering, that is rendering here is, go to the public folder. Okay, there is something called index.html. Okay, so this is the HTML file that is rendering here. Okay, so how to see them? See here now. So index.html. Okay, So this is given by your React itself, as I mentioned you already. So see here now. So title React app. Okay. So the title is React app and some other things here. Okay. But if you want to run this, if you don't want to do this, okay. So if you don't want to have any other things here, see here now. There is a React logo here. There is some edit source and app days, and there is a hyperlink here. Okay, so those are not seeing that are not available here. So what is the reason here? See here now, I can see title. Okay, inside my body, I have a div ID root. Okay, so that's it. Other than that, there is nothing inside this particular folder. Okay, so this in this particular file. Okay, then how these content are being rendered. Okay, so that is what we are going to see. So for now, you need to what you need to understand is the first file or the file that is going to render here is index.html. Okay, so then the next file that is going to render here is into the source. Go to the source folder. Here there will be something called index.js. Okay, so this is the code that is going to render first. Okay, so I'll explain you each and everything now in the from the starting. Okay, see here now. So I'm going to delete everything. Okay, so I will have very simple code. Okay, so I'll delete everything so that you'll understand easily. Okay, so see the code now. So in the public, I have a full file called index.html. Inside the source, I have something called index.js. Okay, so now here, so here also, I'm going to remove everything. Okay, I will have it very short. So I'm going to remove everything here. I'll remove everything. I'll remove everything here. Okay, so very simple HTML. See, so you have an HTML file. It has a title called React app. It has a div with ID root. Okay, so we come here. Okay, so this is a sample HTML. Okay, sample HTML file. Here in my index.js, what I'll do is I'll remove this again. Okay, so I'll explain the code that is very specific to React now. Okay, so what it means here is this HTML file will be rendered in your browser file by default. Okay, so wait for this. Okay, I will show you in short. So see here, this is the file that is going to render here. Okay, and here there is a div here, right? So div ID with root here, right? So this is where your React application is going to be placed here in this particular place. Okay, so how to do that? Okay, that's the question here. So in my index.js, okay, so I told you the import and the export and other things, right? So I need a package. So import, okay, so import statement. So React, okay, so basic thing. So I need my React packages here. I'm going to import it in the name of React. Okay. So I have already everything will be installed here. See the dependency, React DOM and other things. Okay. So the same, I used React here. Okay. Same way, I'm going to import one more package called React DOM. Okay. So this is the syntax. Please watch it carefully. So React DOM. Okay. So React DOM. Okay. So now how to mount your application or how to place your React application in this particular div. So that's the question here. Okay, see now it's blank. Okay, so if I go to inspect, so inspect is nothing but the developer tool. See here now, inspect. Okay, or if you go to here in your browser, there will be more tools, and here there will be something called developer tools. Open this. Okay, so based on here, go to the source or in your elements here. Okay, so elements. Okay, so if I refresh this, so this is your React application now. I told you there is a head with React app. Okay, so this is what they did here. Okay, same way there is something called div id root here. Okay, nothing other than that. There is nothing other than that. Okay, so div id root. Okay, and these things are added by your React. Okay, so let's see. So let's see it in action now. So see very clear the title, the div ID root, okay, and other than that, some scripts that have been added by your React now, okay. So here div ID root, right? So this is where, or here is the location that we are going to import our React application. Okay. Until then, this is a normal HTML file. Okay. So what are the things that you add? For example, you can add a paragraph tag here. Okay. Something like this is GUI. Okay. You can add anything that will be available here. Okay. You can have anything. So hello GUI or whatever normal HTML, you can add it to you, add it here. Okay. So normal HTML file. See, hello GUI is being applied. So I'll zoom. Okay, so hello GUI here. Okay, then this is a normal HTML file. You can add anything here. Okay, the first file that is going to render is your index.html. Now you are going to start your React application, and you have mentioned that this is the area that I'm going to place my React application. It can be any name, root, or any other things. Okay, so in my index.js, the next file that is going to render here is index.js. Okay, so here, what is the syntax to mount your React application? Okay, see now. So I have imported React from my React package, imported something called React DOM in the name of React DOM from React DOM package. Okay, so React DOM, okay, dot. There will be a function called render. Okay, so React DOM will have a function called render here. Okay, so it takes two params. Okay, the first thing is what is the HTML content that you are going to mount in this particular place. So div id root here, right? So what is the content that you want to place it here, and that is the first param. Okay. Second param is where do you want that to be placed? Okay. So our place is div id root right here, right? So that's the thing here. So I see here now. So React DOM dot render. What I will do is I have my index.js here, index.html, right? I remove this particular content. Okay, so now it will be empty. Here, I'm going to have that placed here. Okay, see React DOM dot render hello GUI and comma. The first param is what you want to place. Second param is where do you want to place this particular HTML element. Okay, so document dot get element by ID. So where do you want to place? Here in my root here, right? So I can have that root here. Okay, see here now the same application, it will work as expected. Now it is being rendered from your React. Okay, so div id root. Okay, here see your paragraph tag is inside the div id. Okay, how did it happen? Because you use your React package, something called React DOM here, React DOM here. So React DOM dot render. Okay, and what is the element that you want to mention here? So I have mentioned something called paragraph tag. And then where do you want to place that particular paragraph tag? Document dot get element by ID of root here. Okay, so here you can have any name here. The same name should be mentioned in this way. Okay, so this is the root level of your React configuration. Okay, so your React configuration is done. Okay, this is the very basics of your React. So you need to import React. You need to import React DOM. Just call the React DOM dot render function. Here we can place anything. It can be hello GUI or whatever the thing. Here you need to mention the location. Okay, and now you can see the JSX. So what is the JSX here? This is a JavaScript. This is an HTML element. See, both are inside one place. Okay, so this is a basic JSX syntax or JSX format. Okay, so now I can store it in any variable. For example, so const element. Okay, so I can store it in that particular element here. Okay, and have that element placed here. Okay, simple. Okay, the same is going to render here. See, hello. You can have anything. Okay, so this is a normal JSX element, and this is the basic configuration. So what are all the basic configuration? The first thing is you need to install a package called Create React App, and using the Create React App, you can mention a particular name to your app. So create React App and that particular app name. Okay, once you do that, it will create you a folder with all the necessary configuration that are needed for your initial React application. Okay, so your basic thing. So if you go to the package.json, see, these are the dependencies. So even you don't need these things at all. Okay, so these are all for testing purpose. Okay, so React app will give create React app will give those details also. So basically, you need these three packages. Okay, only these three: React, React DOM, React scripts, and That's it. Okay. So you can even remove these things if you if you don't need it for now. Okay. So maybe in future you may need them. Okay. So see. So other apps you don't need at all packages here. Okay. So why we use React DOM? Why we didn't use React? Okay, that's a good question. So you need whenever you use import React here. Okay. So whenever you use React, you then only you can use React DOM here. Okay. So for example, at the root level, you need to import React. So you can ask me a question here. Okay. So you have imported React here. Okay. But you didn't use that React DOM in any places. Okay. So any places here. Okay. But see here now, it will work as expected. Why do we need React here? Okay. Why do we need React? So I have this, I will have the answer. So once I create a new component. Okay. I will show you there. Okay. So basic thing is the syntax is you need to import your React here. Then only your source code, whenever you mention you create a component, okay, it will know that your React has been created, or this is something called a React application. Okay. So you can ask me a question here. I have imported React, but I didn't use React here in any part of the place. Even if I remove this, okay, it will work as expected. There is no issue at all. See, I'm refreshing the page, it will work as expected. Then why do we need React? So I have the answer once I create a new file. Okay, I will show you there. Okay, so that's the thing. so, so the basic thing is I have created a sample element here. I just rendered it here. Okay, so this is basic Jsx. So now your create React app is done. I'm going to the next topic, Jsx introduction. So this is the basic Jsx. Okay, you can add. So let's see multiple scenarios. Okay, you can add multiple things. For example, you can do any expressions or any mathematical calculations as well. For example, if you want to render 1 plus 2, or for example, before moving to that, you have a string called app here. Okay, app name is something called GUI. Okay, so this is your app name. So if you want to use this string inside your element, okay, you need to use something called something like this. So this is called curly braces and mention that app name. Okay. So if I refresh, see, it will work as expected. Suppose if I modify this, okay, so it will be modified. Okay. So basic thing you need to understand here is, in order to access your variable names or your variable value inside your HTML JSX element, you need to use something called a curly braces. Okay. So this is curly braces here. So curly braces, that particular variable. So app name is a variable here. So I just use it, and that particular thing will be just placed here, and that's why it's rendering hello, whatever the thing that I mentioned here. Okay. This is applied to same way. You can even mention calculations and something like 1 plus 2. Okay, so it will render 3. Same way you can do anything. So something like 3 into 5. Okay, it will render 15. Okay, you can do any mathematical calculations inside your JSX. Okay, using that particular curly braces. Okay, or you can even mention the particular value here. Okay, it's up to you. See, app name equal to. Okay, so this is the first thing. So in order to render your JSX element or in your application, you need to use something called curly braces. Okay, so something like this. Okay, so this is the one thing. Then this is one sort of an example. Suppose if you want to have a something like a loop, okay, loop kind of things. Okay, so for example, you have a array of object. For example, students. Okay, so students here, it's an array of object. So each and every student will have a name, right? So I will have something like common here, and one more thing like name equal to GUI here. Okay, and one more property called name equal. I can have any other thing. Okay, something like okay, batch 241. Okay, so I have an array of object. Okay, something called students. Okay, so how do I render this particular thing as a loop here? Okay, so that's the question. Okay, so I told you, right, we can use something called student.map here. Okay, see, again I will do the something like a student.map. So it's a JavaScript element, right? So just the basic JavaScript array. I'm mapping through this. Okay, when I use map, what will happen? it will return me a new array, right? So that's what going to happen. Okay, so that particular new array will be assigned here, and that will be posted here. Okay, so student dot map, I will be getting each and every student here. Okay, and here you can write your HTML element, something like this, paragraph tag. Okay, so you need to mention student dot name, right? So each student dot map here, student, inside student, what will be coming? Your name. So name equal to Tamil and UV and other things. Okay, so how to mention them here? Curly braces, student dot name. Okay, simple. See here now, student dot name. So if I refresh, see, simple, right? So that's what. How to open the app in the browser? Yeah, that's what I mentioned here, right? So you need to start your application using npm start. So whenever you start your application, you need to use npm start. I told you by default here, so it will mention you the URL. So 3000, you can go to the port localhost 3000, your application will be here. Okay, so that's the thing. So now we are done with some sample things. See here now, student dot name. Okay, and you can mention anything. You can have age here, and you can add any other properties. Basically, it is just like your JavaScript array. Okay, you are looping those things like with your map. Only thing is you are returning your JSX element inside that. Okay, so what is a JSX element? Paragraph tag, and inside that I am returning student dot name. See, so you see here now, paragraph tag, paragraph tag, paragraph tag. Okay, so this element will have the list of all the student name with the paragraph tag, right? So paragraph, paragraph, paragraph tag. Okay, and that will be assigned to your root element. Okay, here. So document.get element by ID root here. Okay, and that particular element will be placed here, and that's why it's happening in this way. Okay, so the thing here is you write your JavaScript, you write your HTML, everything in one file, just like your JavaScript. Okay, so that's the thing with your JSX. So clear on this? So clear on this part? Do you guys have any questions? So this is the basic thing of JSX. So I mentioned you about having one particular thing, something like app name, and you can mention them here, or you can directly mention your paragraph tag and whatever the things that you want. Okay, or you can store it in a different variable and have them placed here, or you can have a loop, or inside that you can loop through each and everything and use it here. Okay, so this is the thing. I'll show you. I'll show you. I'll show you how to return multiple elements in short. Okay. So this is something like with your basic things. Okay. So we are done. Now, for now, what I will do is I will have a paragraph tag here that will return hello world. Okay, simple. So, hello world. Okay. So now we are done with some JSX elements. Okay, some basic how to render things and other things. Okay. Let's go on to the creating your components and other things. Okay. So components. So what is a component? So can anyone answer? I mentioned you on that day. So what is a component? At least one person. Okay, you can use components, other things. Everything is okay. And what is a component? Yeah, separating each and every logic. That's the thing. Okay. So component is nothing but you are going to separate each and every things. For example, I mentioned you an example of your GUI website. So here inside the course, I mentioned you certain components, something like each and every part inside your website is nothing but a component. For example, this is something called courses, each and all the courses. Inside that particular courses, there is something called each and every course. Okay. I told you an example of courses, course, and other things. Okay. So that is something called component. So each component will have some logic. So here it's a courses here. Okay, so inside that there is multiple course, each and every component here. Okay, this is a course component, this is courses component, and this is something called navigation component, and this is something called this is completely called header component. Okay, so it's up to you. So separating each and every logics. Okay, so that is what your that is what component is. Okay, so I told you there are two types of component. Okay, so what is the type of component? One is class component and one is functional component. Okay, so I will show you the both the examples. Okay, so I'm going to create a component here in my inside my source. Okay, something called counter class. Okay, I will have it in this one, counter class.js. Okay, here I'm going to first explain you about class component. Okay, so how to implement class component. Okay, so before moving on to the class component, what is the rule? If you remember how to create a class component, so you are going to say me, I'm going to implement here. So I told you on last class. I have even shared you the PPT. You guys remember? Yes, extend. So what you need to extend? Exactly. So you need to extend the component class from React. Okay. So see here now, import React. So I'm going to have your React here. Okay. So React. So I already told you React will give us a component class. Okay. So component here. Okay. So whenever you create a class component, you need to extend that particular component. That's what I mentioned in the theory class. So I can have something called counter class here. Extends. Okay, what is the component it should extend? Component here. Okay, so this is the thing here. That's it. Okay, and then I told you whenever you create a class component, there should be a method called no. So there should be a method inside the class component. So what is the comp render exactly? So there should be a method by default in your class component. Okay, render. Okay, here you need to return your HTML element. Okay, so what I'll do is, so I'll just return a paragraph tag, something called hello counter component. Okay, simple. Okay, see here now, class. I just gave something some name to my class component, something called counter. That is extending components from your React here. Okay, so React, and I mentioned you whenever there is a class component, there should be a function call or a method inside your component called render. Okay, render, and it is going to render some other thing. Okay, so I'm going to export default counter here. So I'm going to export it as a default. Okay, because I have only one class to be exported. I don't need any other like named export. I need only the default export. Okay, so once I have done here, what I can do, I can import it in anywhere. So that is what I am going to achieve it now. Okay, so in my index.js, instead of rendering hello world here, what I'll do is I'm going to import my counter class here. Okay, so see here now, import counter from. So where is the code here? So inside counter class here. Okay, simple. So now, any guesses how to place your counter here? Is that the right? Is that the right way? It will throw you an error. Okay. So then, what is happening here? No. Any other guesses? Exactly. Someone mentioned it. Okay. So it should be something like this. Your HTML tag. Okay. Whenever you create a component, okay, so you need to use them in this particular format, something called counter, something like this. Okay, so open bracket counter, and it can be self closing tag. Okay, so counter. Okay, so if I do refresh, see hello counter component. Okay, and if you go on to the folder here, see div id root. So div id root, right? So inside that paragraph tag hello a class here, a counter class, paragraph tag hello counter component. Okay, see it's being rendered here. Okay, so this is how you need to create a component, create a class component. Okay, so what are all the things that you need to understand or grab from this particular topic. Whenever you create a class component, you need to import a class called component from your React. Okay, whatever the class that you create. So for example, I have something called counter here. It should be extending from your component class in your React. So extends React. So basically it's a inheritance. So I mentioned to you, right? So that's the thing. So whenever you create a class component, there should be, it is must that you need to use a function or you need to use a method called render. Okay. So render, and it should return some Jsx element, something like normal HTML. Okay. So and just export them. So export them by default. Okay. So you can import them anywhere here. Okay. You can import it any files now and just use that particular component in this way. See, so this is how you need to use counter and self-closing tag. Okay. So it's working as expected. Okay. Clear? Clear on the first part? You guys have any questions? Do you guys have any questions so far on creating a component? Can everyone confirm? Okay. So now you guys are going to say me how to create a functional component. Okay. So I'm going to have one more file called counter functional component. Okay. I just have it in that name. Okay. So it's not like I just added class and functional to this particular file name. Okay. So in order to have the difference between them. Okay. So here also I will have the same name, counter class. Okay. And here also I will import it in the same name, counter class. Okay. So I just changed the name only. Okay. So now you guys are going to answer me how to create functional component. So what is the syntax? So how to create a functional component? Okay. So function. Okay. So I will have why we create separate folder. So I didn't create a separate folder. So still it's in source style. Okay. So counter. I'm going to have a function something like this. Okay, normal function, JavaScript function. Then what should I do inside that? So what is the mandatory for your functional component? There should be a return statement. Okay, here. Okay. So hello from counter functional component. I just modify the things here. Okay. So simple. Function, counter function, just return some HTML element. Okay. So I'll import them here. So import counter functional. I will have the same name now here. Okay. So now you are going, someone asked me having multiple things here, right? See now. Okay. So see here now, I'm using two components now. Okay. So basically counter class and counter functional. Okay. So it will throw me an error. So what is the error here? Adjacent Jsx elements must be wrapped in enclosing tag. Okay. So what it means? So you have used multiple statements inside. So wherever it is. Okay. So I will have it in this way. So here I have mentioned multiple lines here. Okay. So what is the error that is flowing here is whenever you use multiple statements, there should be something called fragments. Okay. So fragments are nothing but what is the tree structure of your DOM? Okay. So HTML. So this is the tree structure, right? Inside HTML, there should be head and there should be body. Okay. So this is the case. So there should be a parent element and then there should be a head and body. Okay. Same way inside head, we need to have title, and same way inside body will be having something like paragraph. Okay. So it's a tree structure. Okay. So whenever you have two things, okay, see here now. So now the tree structure is something like this. Okay. So counter class and counter function. Okay. So there is no parent at all here, right? So you have two things, but there is no parent at all. When you have a parent, then only it can be it can be it can attain the attain the tree structure. Okay, so here you just mentioned two elements here, but you didn't mention the parent element, any parent element. Okay, that's why it's throwing an error. Okay, so adjacent JSX element must be wrapped in your enclosing tag. Okay, so you can have a empty div. Okay, something like this, empty div. Okay, so we can have mentions here. Now the error is gone. Okay, so now there is no error here. If I do refresh, so here okay, I didn't export it. Okay, so export default counter functional. Okay, so now it's working. So class component and functional component. Okay. So how to have the things inside your application, inside if you have multiple lines, what you need to have it here, there should be some elements wrapped inside if you have multiple elements here. Okay, so this is something called your enclosing tag. Okay, so there is one another way. Suppose if you don't want to use div here, okay, so you need to have something like very for example, if you go here in your things here. So inside head title and inside body we have div id root. Inside that, so div id root here. Okay, inside my index.html I had something called div. Okay, inside that particular div, what we have a div here and two components. Okay, so we have a div here. Inside that we have two paragraph elements. Okay, suppose you don't need this particular div. Okay, in that case, what you can do? Okay, so I don't need this div, but I need to have only this particular element from my only the components, the elements inside my component only should be rendered. I don't need this div. Okay, in that case, okay, there is something called a fragment. Okay, so here you can import. There is a module called fragment inside it. Okay, so here you can use that fragment. Simple. Okay, and if you refresh this, see here now, div same elements is been rendered, div id root. Instead of having one more div, only that particular component HTML has been rendered. See, there is no div at all now. Okay, so but this particular your enclosing tag feature also is done. Okay, and your fragment part is also done. Okay, your CSS part is, I mean, your HTML part is also done. See here, now you don't need div. Okay, your it has some enclosing tag as well, so no issues with React as well. Your component also is rendered. Okay, so this is something called fragment. So fragment is nothing but a piece of code, right? Suppose if you want to enclose your all your code inside one particular something like, if you don't need any div or paragraph tag, you can directly use fragment, which is inside your React. Okay, so inside your React you can import them here. Okay, so here this is the part with fragments. So this is what I want to cover here. Okay, fragment topic is done. Okay, also this is like fragment is something like before React. So current version of React is React 16. Okay, so current version of your React is React 16. After React before React 16 we will be using something called fragment in this way. Okay, so after React 16 they introduced a feature called empty fragment or shorthand syntax for your fragment. Okay, so what is the shorthand syntax is, you don't need to mention fragment at all. You can just leave as something like this. Okay, so you don't need to import at all here. So it will work as expected. See, so same div id root and hello counter class component and hello function component. So where is hello counter class component is coming? This particular data, it's inside your counter class. Okay, it's rendering some element. Okay, same way where it is coming from functional component here. So you have created a function component, you just created a function, it returns an HTML element. Okay, and that's been rendered here. Okay, and that's something called your functional component over here. Okay, clear on this?
Hi, Tamil.
Yeah, please go ahead.
One small doubt. Can you open the counter functional?
Okay.
So here we are just creating the same name as our JavaScript name. It's like a constructor. Whenever like whenever the index.js get invoked, this counter functional will automatically get invoked. Am I right?
Yes.
Like my doubt is, instead of creating a function counter functional as a JavaScript constructor name, if we create anything, any other name.
You can have any name here. That's not an issue at all. It's just a file. So for example, I can have test. Okay, it's not like I need to have that name. Okay, test. Okay, see, to work as expected.
Okay, thank you.
So name doesn't matter here. The file name can be different. This particular file name can be different, and the importing the name that you have here, right? You can have any different name. That's not an issue at all. So basic thing is you need to import it default, and same
And
way
then
you need to
export.
import them in the same name. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now we are done with creating. So we can use counter function in counter class. Why we create separate JS? Is it a procedure? Counter class in counter. No. I just want to show you two things. How to create two types of component. The same component, okay, same hello counter, this particular thing. When you create with the functional component, you need to have, I just want to show you different files here, okay. You can even create this directly, something like this in your index.js itself. I don't need this anymore. You can create it in this way. So the same can be applied here. See, it will work as expected. That's not an issue. I just created a different file so that you can understand between the what is class component and functional component. Okay. Is it clear? So clear on creating components. So I showed you both things. One is counter function and counter class. Only thing is you need to grab here is, so class component needs render method. It should extend from your component class, okay, and export them by default, as you know. Okay, so it should return some Jsx element. In the case of functional component, a normal JavaScript function, you should return something here, okay, some Jsx element. Okay, so now we are done. So done with creating. Can there be multiple export in single JS file? I told you, right? So you can have named export if you need multiple things. But in the case of React, we will have separate. We will separate them into a different folder and have only default export. Okay. So now the next topic is, so we are done with your components and how to work on them. Okay. So let's move on to see props. Okay. So what is a prop? What is a prop? Okay, properties. Okay. So now you have used a component called counter class here. Okay, so you have used a component here, something called counter class. Same way you use a component called function, a counter function, which is a functional component. So I told you properties are nothing but, for example, if you use a class component, you can pass some properties to the particular function, I mean particular component. Same if you want to have some values passed to this particular component, you can pass as a property. Okay, so what I'll do is here I have used, what is the difference between the both the things here, counter class and counter function? Here it's function. I just mentioned a paragraph tag with functional component here. Same way I pass something called a class here. Okay. So what I will do is I will dynamically change this value. Okay. So see here now. For class component, I am sending a property called name. Okay. So this is how you need to send a property. Okay. So name equal to class. Okay. Same way you can pass any properties like age and what other things. Okay. Same way for this name here, I can have anything like functional. Okay, it's up to you. I can have any name. Okay. So now once you pass this as a property, okay, how to access them here? Okay. So you used a component called counter class and sent a property called name equal to class. Okay, you can have, okay, I will pass something called Tamil here. Okay, I will pass something called Guvi here. Okay, so I am passing a property called name equal to Tamil to my counter class component. Okay, same way I am passing a property called name equal to Guvi to my counter functional component here. Okay, so how to access that particular value, name equal to Tamil here. Okay, suppose I want to display my name here. Okay, so name of my name that has been coming here. Okay, so here Okay, I need to have my name here. Okay, so how to do that? That's the question now. Okay, so here I need to print my name here. Okay, so that is the thing. So in the case of class component, I mentioned you, right? This is class. Whenever you have a class here, you can access, it has some properties. There is a property called props. Okay, so how to access them? So whenever if you want to access that particular property inside your function, you need to use something called this dot props. So in your class, in your class session, I told you, right, something called this dot name, this dot age, and other things. Same way, whenever you use this particular component class, so you have extended a component class from your React, right? So there will be a property called property. Okay, so props. Okay, so you can access them and access that particular name. So name equal to Tamil, right? So you can directly use this dot props dot name. Simple. Okay, so see here now. See, name equal to Tamil is implemented here. Okay, so I send a property called name equal to Tamil to my counter class component. That particular counter class component, if you want to access that value, you need to use something called this dot prop, and whatever the name that you mention here, that will be available as here dot name. Okay, so you can pass any properties. For example, something like age. You can pass. See here, if you want to pass as a string, you will be mentioning here. Okay, suppose if I want to pass some value, something like this here. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll do a console of my this dot props. Okay, so I'll do a console here. So if I refresh, see, age equal to 27, name equal to Tamil is applied. That's what I showed. That's what I told you. Props is nothing but a JavaScript object. So whatever the properties that you send here, so name equal to Tamil and age equal to 27, that will be available as an object in my this dot props. Okay, I just printed my this dot props here. Okay, so what are the properties will be available here? Name equal to Tamil and age equal to 27 here. Okay, and you can see age is something like string here. Okay, suppose if you want to pass some integer value, how to pass them here? So how to pass them? So that's the question here. Okay, so same, you can use some curly braces here and send something like this 27. Okay, so now if I refresh, see, so now it's coming as a number. Okay, instead of having uh instead of having string. Okay, so you can pass any property. Even if you want to pass some boolean value, we can pass like true, false, and any other things here. Okay, so true. Okay, if you refresh, see, the boolean value will be coming. Okay, or if you want to have them string, okay, you can mention it this way. Okay, if you want to have it in multiple, or even if you want to have the string, okay, you can have it in this way also. So name Tamil can be something like this. So there are multiple syntaxes. See, if there is a string, you can directly give something like this. If you want to something like specific to number or boolean and other things, you can use this particular syntax, something called curly braces, and that particular property will be available for you as this dot props. See here now, so age equal to them, and that's how, and that's why I can access this dot props dot name. Suppose if I want to have age here, okay, so age, and I can call something called this dot props dot age here. Okay, so now if I refresh, see, age equal to 27 is right here. Okay, so that's the thing. So if you want to access properties in your class component, how to access them? Using something called this dot props. Okay, and whatever the property that you send here, that will be available here. This dot props. So name and age. Okay, clear on this? Accessing your properties from class component. Repeat once. Okay. So only thing is to have a short summary of that. Okay, whatever the component, it can be class, it can be function. Okay, you can have anything. If you want to, you have used your class and function component or counter component in your index.js. Okay, so where you use something like here. Okay, if you want to pass some properties, okay, to your functional component or class component, you can just pass in something like this. Okay, so you can have anything, name equal to Tamil, or you can have something called student list. It can be array, it can be object, and anything. For example, if you want to pass your address, so address something like this. Okay, if you want to pass object, okay, you can have something like this. So you can have one more thing, and our address is something like street, and you can have even the properties here. Okay, so basic thing is, when if you want to pass data from one component to another, for example, index.js, you used a component something called counter class, and you just had a property called name equal to Tamil and age equal to 27. Okay, so this particular value should be accessible from counter class, right? How to access that particular value? So those values will be inside a property called this dot props in the case of class component. Okay, so you can directly call this dot props dot name, this dot props dot age. Okay, so those two properties will be coming from here, name equal to Tamil age 27, and you can print over here. Okay, so that's the thing with your props. Is it clear? Clear now? So I just gave you a short summary. Okay, so now the same property props here, right? How to access them in functional component? Any guesses? How to access props in your functional component? Yeah, passing props to a function as we will be getting as an argument. Exactly. So here I will be getting my props directly. Okay, so directly you will be getting your props. Okay, so you need not worry about the things here. Okay, so now other than that, I can have multiple Jsx element here. So I'm going to have the same name equal to, instead of calling it as this dot props, I can directly call props dot name. Okay, simple, because I'm getting props as my first parameter, right? I can directly call. Okay, see. So this is how you need to access your properties in the case of functional component. Okay, so in the case of class component, it will be inside this dot props. In the case of functional component, we can directly access them from your first argument. Okay, so here you can directly call props dot name here. If you want to have age here, you can directly call props dot age. Okay, so that's the thing with your properties. Okay, clear on this? Props is a keyword, or we can use any name. You can have any name. So here you can have any name. Basic thing is, in your first param, you will be getting all the properties. Okay, so it can be, even if you want to mention like properties, you can mention in that way also. Okay, it's up to you. So we basically follow it as props. Okay, so clear on the props. So properties is done. So in both the class and functional component, I have explained you how to use them here, how to pass data here. Suppose if you want to pass array here, you can pass array as well. Something like inside that you can pass array with some elements inside it. Okay, or if you want to pass an object, you can pass object like something like this, and you can pass the key values and corresponding pairs. Okay, so that's the thing. Can be add many parameters in functional component? No, you cannot. Okay, so this particular component here, right? So we are not we don't have control with that particular functional component. Okay, so whenever you use property something like this, by default first param will have the properties. Okay, other properties we cannot access them, so you cannot pass multiple parameters here. Okay, so that is the basic thing. Do you guys have any questions on the properties part? Can we move on to the next topic? Okay, so now before moving on to the state, So I will explain certain things now. Okay, I'm going to HTML, some basic HTML here. Okay, so I'm going to tutorial here. So for example, so here I will just take some examples. Okay, so here this is an example, and then auto example. Okay, I took two example now. Okay, here. So in JSX, there is some things you need to know before moving on to the topic here. Okay, so normally when you use HTML, if you want to mention class, what you need to do, you need to mention something called class here. Okay, so class and other things. You can use class something like this here. Okay, so basically, for example, consider this as a tag, and I have something called text, something like class name here. Okay, this is one sort of an example. Suppose the same applies here as well. Suppose if you want to have a class, okay, so something called name. Okay, same way, if you want to have some on click function, for example, I have a button here, so you will have something called on click, something like this, and you will be basically having some function here, something like submit, something like this. Okay, so submit. So this is how normal HTML you do. Okay, but see here now, class is an invalid property, on click is an invalid property. So what is the reason here is your JSX is different from your HTML. Okay, in HTML you might use directly the class. Okay, but here you need to use something called class name. Okay, same way for on click you need to use something called camel case. See here, C should be capital. Okay, so now okay, so I'll mention, I will see, I will explain that. So on click something like this here. Okay, so basically here is whatever the thing that you mentioned in HTML, for example, class, here it is class name. Okay, so you need to have that name. Okay, same way in the case of HTML, you will have something called on click. You need to use something called on click in this way. Okay, so something like this. Same applies for your on change. Okay, so you need to use something called on change here. So camel cases. Okay, in the case of class, you need to use something of class name. So on click, it should be like camel cases. Okay, so that's the thing you need to understand in the case of your JSX. Okay, IDs and everything is same. Okay, that's not a deal at all. So ID and some other properties, style and everything is same. Okay, so basically here is if you have multiple properties, something like on click, so you will be having something called on click. So how to know how it, so if you want to know how it works, okay, you know about the document object, right? So you might have printed it already, so I will have it again. So HTML class. So where can I show that example? Okay, so what you need to have here is, so how to understand like classes, class name here, same way button on click here. So basically you need to understand the documentation first. Okay, so on click and other things. Okay, before that, okay, suppose if you want, you might have known the document object. Okay, so document dot something like on click here. Okay, so something like it has two words, or something like on change, or if it has two words, you know, to have them something called in the case of camel case. Okay, so if a particular event, something like on click or on change, okay, so everything it has two words, right? So on change, on something like this here, right? So you need to have it in camel cases. Okay, so that's how you need to identify. Okay, in the case of class it should be class name, but if it has something like default value or one particular value, one word, it can be directly mentioned id, something called style and other things. Okay, same way, for class alone you need to use something called class name. Okay, so that's the thing. So basically in JSX, so you need to use something called camel place. If it has double words, if it has like singular, it can you can directly use. In the case of class name, class you need to use something called class name. Okay, so that's the thing. So clear on this. So before moving on to the topic, okay. So now let's move on to event handling. Okay, I will come to the state in the in short. Okay, event handling. So what is an event handling in the case of JavaScript and HTML? So on change, on click. So everything is something called an event. Okay. So how to handle that's the question. Okay. So what it means here is, for example, I'm going to have an on click here. Okay. So on click. See here now. See, this is the syntax. Okay. So on click, what you need to do is in the case of class component. Okay, you can write a function here. Okay, so something like render. So I can have like okay, what I will have here is click me. Okay, something like this. So we basically follow this. So click me. Okay. So whenever I click on this particular button, okay, something like click me, okay, I need to call this particular function. Okay. How to do that? So basically this dot, so basic thing of handling property, right? So this dot click me. Simple. Okay. So this dot click me. And automatically it will call this particular function. So this is how you need to handle your events. So click me. Okay, so let's see. Here I have a click me button. So see, click me is happening here. Okay, so that's the thing. So on click, on change, and what are the things that we mentioned for something like events. So you can that particular value will be available here in your. So what are the function that you have? You need to mention a function something like this. Okay, so curly braces and that particular function. This dot click me. Okay, what it means is whenever the click is happening, you call that particular function. That's what you are mentioning here. Okay, so that's why if I click here. Okay, so click me is called again and again. Okay, so this is how you need to handle events. Now you might have learned something called event.target. Have you learned it? So event object, did you guys learn it in your JavaScript part? Did you hear of it? Event.target, event.target.value, those things. Okay, okay, okay. So okay, I will show you in the next class. Okay, so we will be handling forms. There I will show you. Okay, so basic thing here is So basic thing here is, so whenever you need to understand here is, so on click. So whenever you click on that particular button, you need to call the function called this dot click me. So this is the way. Okay. Suppose you need to pass parameters. Okay, so parameters to here. Okay. So you, for example, I need to send some argument like, for example, message. Okay. So whenever you click on that particular message, you need to send a message here, or you can have any name value. Okay. So how to do that? Okay. So see the syntax now. So if you want to pass parameters here, okay, see here, you have to add a function here and something like this. Okay. Once you did this, okay, you can call that particular function, okay, with any parameters. Okay. So for example, I can send like Google. Okay. So I will pass it here. Okay. And if I print that particular console here, okay, simple. So now if I click on that, click me here. See that I can pass parameters. Okay, so this is how you need to modify your syntax whenever you are if whenever you want to send parameters. Okay, so see here, this is when you don't need any parameters to be sent. Okay, so if you want to send some parameters to be if you want some parameters to be sent, okay, so you need to have something like this. Okay, so you need to add a function again here, that particular function, then it whenever you click on that particular function, you need to call that particular function here. Okay, with whatever the parameter that you want to send. Okay, so that's how GUI and click me is happening here. Okay, so this applies for your on click. Same way this applies for your on change. For example, input type equal to something like text. Okay, so on change, so whenever I type in that particular keyword, okay, so whenever I type in there, I'm going to for example, I'll have a function called change me. Okay, here, so change me, I'll do a console here, and just print change me. Okay, simple. Okay, so I have a text box here. Now if I see here, whenever I type in here, sorry, so whenever I type in here, or I will clear this, whenever I type in here, see, change me is called. Okay, so that's how your on change also works. So on change, on click, on blur, and whatever the things that you want to have, you can have any events here, like on mouse enter, on mouse leave, anything. Okay, so you can have those things, and you can mention the particular function here. Okay, if you want to have if you want to send params, you can just have this as something like this. Okay, and then you can call with some parameters. You can send like any content here. Okay, so I will send something like GUI here, and that will be available here. Okay, same if you want to pass multiple parameters, you can pass multiple parameters, and that will be available as here argument 1 and argument 2. Okay, so whatever the value that you send here, so argument, this is 1, right? So this is 2, right? That will be available here. So if you want to explicitly send some values to your function, okay? So this is how your class component works. So basically, you need to call something called this dot change me, this dot click me, and other things, okay? The same applies to your counter function, okay? So what I will do is I will copy these things. So H and button here, I will have them placed here. Okay, so instead of having change me, okay, I can have a function. Okay, so something like, so function inside function, right? So I can mention a create a function, something called change me. Here I can do some console. Okay, so console dot log of change me. Okay, simple. So now instead of calling this, there is no this sort of, you can call the function directly. Same way you can have for click me. So here click me. Okay, and you can call that click me function instead of using this. Okay, the same will work as expected. Okay, so now so now here, so if I type in here, so changed me. Okay, if I click it, click me. Okay, suppose if I type in here, change me. Okay, the same applies for your functional component as well. Okay, only thing is you have to create a function, define a function here, and you have to access them directly, change me and click me and other things. Okay, instead of having them called using this. Okay, so only reason is it's a class, right? So you need to access the properties of the class using this only. Suppose something like this dot click me, this dot change me, and that's why we use this. This is a normal function. Okay, we just created a function here. Okay, use them here, change me and click me. Okay, simple as that. Okay, so clear on this. So clear on the event handling. This is applied for everything. It can be like click me. It can be like on change, on click, or on submit. Whatever the things, all the events can be handled using that particular function. Only thing is you need to mention them in the case of in like a camel case. Okay, so on and capital C and click. Same way on and capital change, something like this. Same way on submit, on. Okay, yes should be capital and submit. Okay, the same thing. Okay, that's the thing you need to understand here. Okay, clear on this? Clear on the event handling part? Can we call a function from a different component? It needs some time to understand to you. Okay, I'll show you once. This is something basic class, so I don't want to confuse you guys like calling other functions from different component. Okay, for now you know to understand some basics. So properties, what is a property, fragment, event handling, and other things. Okay, so clear on the event handling part? Can everyone confirm? So if you have any questions, please ask me. I can tell you again. Okay, so now, okay, I could get responses now. Okay, here. So now the last topic is okay. So I cannot handle life cycle methods today. It's already time. Okay. So the last topic is states and set state. Okay. Let's see what is a state and set state now. First thing is I'm going to ask you. I'm going to explain about the state. Okay. So before that, here I'm passing some properties called name equal to Tamil and age equal to 27. Okay. Can I change the property here? So this is basically a JavaScript object, right? So can I change the property, something called this dot props dot name to any other value? Is it possible? Yes. So it's read only. You cannot modify the property value. Okay. So that's the thing. The same. What is the state now? Okay, that's the question. Okay. I told you states are only for class component. Okay. So there is no states for your functional component. Okay. So no, we don't need the functional component now. So here, what is the state? So that's the question here. Okay. So here inside my render function, I will print this dot state. Okay. So I go to refresh. So initially it's null. Okay. So what it means is state is null because you haven't defined any state. So I told you state is nothing but a basic JavaScript object. Okay. So you can have any state, it can have data that is very specific to this component alone. Okay. For example, here you have something called hello counter class component here. Okay. Suppose if you want to have them in a different variable and display it here, you can store that particular value inside this dot state and print them here. Okay. So how to do that? Okay, that's the thing. So here, whenever if you want to initialize a state, you need to have constructor. Okay. So constructor. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to explain to you about states. Okay. So states are nothing but it's a JavaScript object that are very specific to only this particular component alone. Okay. So for example, properties here, I just passed some value. I just used it. Okay. So it is coming from the different component and we are using them into a different, using them in our component. Okay. Same way in the case of states. Okay. So in the case of state, this is very specific to only this component. Okay. So how to declare a state? Okay. So in order to define a state, okay. So you need to call your constructor first. Okay. So here you can mention something called this dot state. Okay. You can, it's a JavaScript object, right? You can have any value inside this. For example, name. Okay. Something like GUI here. Okay. So if I do this, I can access them using this dot state. Okay. So here I can have one more paragraph tag. So this is coming from state. Okay. Something like this. So this dot state dot name. Okay. So what is the error here? I just created constructor here. Okay. This dot state is just a JavaScript object. Okay. Name equal to be. I just use them here. This dot state dot name. Okay. Nothing other than that. Okay. So then what is what will be the error? Exactly. Someone mentioned it. So you are doing inheritance, right? So there will be a constructor inside your component class, right? So you need to use super here. Okay, so super. Okay, see here, you need to call your constructor first, components constructor first, and then only you will be able to access other things. Okay, so now see, it will work as expected. No errors at all. Okay, so that's the thing. So now your state will have name equal to GUI here. Okay, so that's what this is. The state is very specific to only your this particular component. Okay, and you can access them using this dot state. Okay, so that's the thing here. So now I told you this is very it's just a JavaScript object. Okay, what is the special in this? So you can have any name here, right? It can be like this dot name. Okay, you can have any name, something like this. Okay, so you can have anything, something like this. We can pass any values like this dot age itself, something like 27. Okay, so you can have name something like Tamil here. Okay, and you can call them something like here name equal to this dot name, this dot name. So you might have this question, right? So this dot age, we can have this dot age here. Okay, so if you print so if I refresh it, it will work. Okay, name equal to Tamil. Okay, so it is coming from this dot name, and age equal to this dot age. Okay, and I have something called state here. So your state is again a JavaScript object. So basically this is also a property. So name equal to GUI. Okay, so I can call this dot state dot name. Okay, so then what is the special between these variables now? So what's the difference between this dot name and this dot age and this dot state here? Why do we need state? Any guesses? Any other guess? Okay, okay. So I could get some answers. We can change the values dynamically. Exactly. So here, this dot name, this dot age is just a property here. Okay. So name and age and property here. Okay. You can change whenever you change this value. For example, I will have a very short thing here. Okay. See here now. I will just comment this. Okay. So I'll have very simple. Okay. Name, age, state, and a click function. Okay. So I'll have even click function very simple here. Okay. See here now. So this is my class component. Okay. It has name, it has age, it has state, and it has some click me function. Okay. So inside my click me function, what I will do is this dot name equal to GUI. Okay. Very simple. So what I have done here, I have a class with a property called name, which is something like this dot name. It has age. It has another property called this dot state, and it's a JavaScript object. And inside that we have something called name equal to GUI. Okay, simple, right? So name, age, and state dot name. Okay, so I will have Amur as well here. Okay, so whenever I click on that particular function, what I am doing here, so when I click on that particular function, I'm calling this dot click me. Okay. Inside click me, what I'm doing, I'm modifying my name. So currently it's Tamil. Okay. So I'm modifying the name to GUI here. Okay. So what should happen? So can anyone answer? So what should happen now? So I have name, age, and state here. Okay. So button on click this dot click me. So whenever I click on that particular button, this dot click me will be called. Okay. And here I have modified my this dot name when I initially it was Tamil. I am modifying it to GUI here. Okay. What will happen in the UI here? So here what will happen? So you are saying it's going to be GUI here. Okay. So see here now, it will throw you an error. Okay. Something like this. Okay, actually, this is a different error. Just give me a minute. So just give a minute. So see here, I'm clicking it, okay, but it's not modifying it here. Okay, so what is the reason here? So see here, I'm modifying it. It will not modify the UI. So that is the difference between your normal variable and a state. Okay, see here now. By default, your return will be called. You know that. You don't know that already. Okay. So whenever I use the particular class component, my render function will be called. Inside that, I have name, age, state, and a button. Okay. So it's rendered. Obviously, it's rendered here. Okay. So when I click on that particular button here, you have called click me. Okay. So click me is a function. Okay. So then how your render function will be called again? So how is it possible? So how your guys how do you guys say here it will change to GUI? Obviously, it's not possible, right? So do you understand my question? So what I'm asking, whenever you use a class component, okay, I told you there should be a render function here. Okay, so render function will be called automatically as I mentioned you. That's why it's rendering name equal to Tamil and whatever the thing that we have in our state name age and that has been rendered here. Okay. Now you click on a particular button here. Okay, that particular button is be clicked and on clicking it, it is calling this particular function. Here, what you are doing here, you are just modifying the name to GUI. Okay, so that's what you are doing here. Okay, but your render function is not called, right? So whenever again you need to call your render function, right? So when then only it will change your name, current name, right? So currently the name is Tamil. Okay. You click on that particular function, you change the name to GUI. Okay. Now in order to modify the UI, you need to call the render function again, right? So then only the new name value will be available here, right? Is my question valid? Yes, exactly. So this is what the difference between your state and your normal variable. Okay. So now you know the problem here. Okay. So now you got to understand what is the problem here. Okay. What is the problem here? You have updated the value inside in your class. Okay. So basically you updated your class value to GUI. Okay. So even if I console here, okay. So console my this here. Okay. See here now. So currently it's Tamil 27 and state equal to Tamil here. Okay, so if I click on that. Okay, so name equal to GUI. It has changed in the name to you have changed the name to GUI. So this dot name is currently GUI. So that's why it's printing GUI here. But it needs to be reflected in your UI here, right? So here, okay. So then what you need to do, you need to call your render function, right? Then only the new value will be displayed, right? So in order to overcome this difficulty, okay, what happens here is there comes something called as state. Okay, so this is the power of your state. Okay, so what we will do is we will never have something like this dot name and age here. Okay, so we will have one place here, name state. Okay, we will have our age and everything as a JavaScript object. Okay, so here I'm going to print something called state dot name and state dot age. Okay, so same values has been printed here. Okay. So now when I click on that particular function here, this dot state dot name, right? So state dot name to Tamil to GUI. Okay. So Tamil to GUI. So what will happen now? Any guesses? So I told you we had a problem with your JavaScript object. Okay. But whenever you use state, okay, and modify the state value, okay, what will happen? Can everyone guess? Name changes to GUI will re-render. Okay, see here now. Going to click here. See, it will not modify. Then what is the purpose of state? So that's what your question here, right? So that is how your state works. Okay, see here now. So your state is also read only. Okay, you cannot change your state directly. Okay, it will not reflect your UI. Okay, so that is the purpose of set state. Okay, so there is a function called set state here. See here, same this dot set state is a function. Okay, here you need to mention some state. For example, if you want to change the name, you can have name here and change the value to GUI. Okay, this is the value. Okay, so once you have done something like this, whenever you call set state, okay, so whenever, so please have a extra understanding on this. See here now, whenever you use set state, it will change the value in your state. So name to Tamil to GUI and re-render automatically. Okay, see here now. So I'm going to refresh, changing the name to Tamil to GUI now. See, so that is the purpose of your state. Okay, so you cannot use like normal, like you cannot have normal properties like this dot name, this dot age. You can have them. Okay, it's not an issue. Okay, but whenever you change that particular value, it will not be re-rendered. So that's the thing here. If you want to re-render your UI based on your value, okay, so you need to use something called state. Okay, again, whenever if you want to modify the state's value, so this dot state is read only by default. Okay, if you want to change the value in your state, you need to use a function called set state. So inside the set state, you can mention anything. For example, name equal to GUI, or you can even, if you want to change the value of age, you can change the value of age just by sending something like this, age equal to something like 25. Okay, so you can do this. So whenever you call set state, automatically your render function will be called, which is something called re-rendering. Okay, so it will, your UI will be re-rendered. See now, so it's Tamil and 27. Okay, so Tamil and 27. So when I click on this, see, GUI 25 and everything is modified now. Okay, so that's how your state will be. Whenever you call set state, it will change the value in the UI and re-render automatically. But if you don't use set state, okay, you can directly modify this dot state dot name. Okay, but your UI will not be rendered. Instead, its value only will be changed. Okay, suppose if you call like this dot state dot name, okay, equal to GUI. Okay, suppose if you don't do this, okay, it will modify the state value here in your class. Okay, but it will not re-render again. So that's the difference between the set state and directly modifying them. Okay, so clear on this? Will state work only when state is available? No, that's not the case. Okay, so suppose if you don't mention any states here, okay, if you mention something like this, it should work actually. Okay, so why it's not working is by default it should be something called null. Okay, so what I'll do is, see here now, I'll have an empty object now. Okay, so that's why it's showing empty here. See, empty. Okay, so now your state doesn't have anything. Okay, so that's why it's showing empty here. Okay, so if I click me here, see, value will be the new value that you mentioned here, right? Name equal to GUI and age equal to 20 will be available here. Okay, so you can add multiple properties if you need. Okay, it's not like, it's not right. It's not like you need to have some states here. You can have initially it can be empty. Okay, and then you can add some properties. See, initially it was empty. I can just have click me, properties has been added. Okay, clear? Do you guys have any questions on the state part? Can we recall render without using set state? Sure, sure, sure. We can do that. Okay. So I'm going to give you a summary. See here. Please watch it carefully. Okay. So I have something like this. I have something like this. Okay, these are the things I showed you in our JavaScript class. Okay, so basic properties. Okay, so in order to access them, you can directly call this dot name. Okay, same way if you want to access them, you can call this dot age. Okay, same way here, I will have one more tag. Okay, something called state name. Here, what I will do is I will display the name from my state. Okay, so this dot state dot name here. Okay, so now here I will have a property called name again here, Tamil. Okay, so this is the basic thing. Okay, so refresh it. So Tamil and age 27 and everything is available now. Okay, so now what I'll do is, on clicking on that particular button, okay, I will be directly modifying the name. Okay, so this dot name. So currently it's Tamu, right? I'm going to change it to Gobi. Okay, and consoling my this here or this dot name here. Okay, so I console my this dot name before modifying and after modifying. Okay, so see here now I have name here. It has a property called Tamil. Okay, if I do click, so when I it was before modifying it, the value was Tamil. Then it modified to you modify it to Groovy, and now it's Groovy here. Okay, so basically your property has been modified. Your class property is modified, but your UI still remains the same. See here, still it's Tamil. Okay, so how to handle this? Okay, so basically how to handle this is we need to use something called state. So that is the difference between a normal thing and a state thing here. Okay, so here we have state, right? Suppose I will do the same here. State dot name. I will print the state dot name. I will print the state dot name. Okay, and state dot name. Okay, so same thing. I just modifying the value inside my state. Okay, the same way as I did in the name part. Okay, so now if I refresh, if I do click me, okay, same. It is modified property. Okay, so initially it's summer, then it's modified to Gobi. Okay, but still the UI has not been modified. Okay, so what is the reason? Because your state is again read only. It will change only in your property. Okay, something like this dot name. Okay, so it will work as this dot name if you use it in this way. Okay, suppose if you want to modify it in the UI, okay, so it modified the property in the class, but it is not modifying the UI. What is the reason? Your render function is not called, right? So initially the render function has something called Tamil and age equal to 27, and that's why it displayed here. This render function will be called automatically. Okay, then when you click on that particular button, okay, here you modify the property, but you didn't call the render function, right? So you need, if you call this dot render, maybe it will modify the changes in the UI. Okay, so in order to overcome this, okay, so in order to re-render, you need not call render function wherever you need. For example, here, for example, this dot render here or this dot render here. You need not do that. Okay, instead you can use a function called set state. Okay, so something like this. So this is the value. So this is very specific to states alone. Okay, so this dot set state. If you have some property mentioned, for example, initially it's Tamil. Okay, you have added property called name equal to GUI now. Okay, you just modified it. Okay, so now if you do this, okay, what will happen here is your property will be changed in your state. Also, the property will be changed in the UI as well. How is it happening here is whenever you call set state, automatically the value inside your state will be updated to GUI. Okay, also render function will be called automatically. Okay, so that is the power of your state. Okay, so see here now it's Tamil now. I'm clicking on it. Okay, so it's GUI now. Okay, sorry, here it is. So I'm printing the state here, right? So initially it was Tamil. Okay, then if I click on that, it is GUI. Okay, so how it is happening? Because you use something called set state. Initially the name was Tamil. You just modified it to GUI. Okay, so once you use set state, state also will be modified. Your render function will also be called, and automatically the UI has been changed. Okay, clear? So is it clear now? Can everyone confirm? So state is a vital part in your React. Okay, so this is the fundamental your React state, how your props work, and how a component has been created, and these are all the fundamentals. Once you master this, other things are something like piece of a cake. That's very easy. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. So now state and set state is done. So can set state work with changes in props? Changes in props? I couldn't understand. You cannot change your properties. So basically, you cannot change your properties at any point of time. Okay. So whatever the properties that you send here, it cannot be modified at any point of time here in your class, in your component. Okay. So it's read only. So any questions on this so far? So that's it for today, and we see some topics tomorrow. So we have one more fundamentals to be covered. That's something called life cycle methods. Okay. So once the life cycle methods also is done, your fundamentals are completed. Then we will be moving on to the some main topics. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm planning to give the task. You just give me a minute. So here, the task for today is, so the same timing. Okay, the timing is same. So please see this topic task. See here now. So this is the task. You need to have 3 buttons. Okay, so 3 buttons in your application. So basically in your index.js, okay, so you need to create a component that is in the name called app.js. Okay, so you need to create a component. First thing is use create react app. Okay, so use your create react app and create okay, create react app and your app name. Okay, using create react app, create a file. Okay, so I'm a create a project. Okay, inside your source. Okay, delete everything. Okay, everything in your public folder there should be index.html. In the source folder there should be index.js. Okay, simple. Okay, in the index.js there should be these 2 lines. Okay, and something like react dom.render. Okay, then you should have a file called app.js here. Okay, inside your app, 2 files actually. So app.js. Okay, here there should be something called counter.js. One more file called counter.js. So basically your source will have 3 files: index.js, app.js, and counter.js. Okay, so inside your app.js, I mean inside your index.js, you need to place your app.js here. Okay, so your app component. So basically here it should be like you will be importing that file here, import app from something like app.js, something like this. Okay, you have to have that particular component here. Okay, so something like this, simple. And you need to pass some properties here. Okay, so name equal to counter here. Okay, so this is the task for you. Okay, so I'm just typing here. Okay, so you will not be having those things here. So this is the code that needs to be applied here inside your app component. So your work is here. Okay, so inside your app component, okay, what you need to do is, so I told you, right, there should be an app.js inside your app component. You need to use your you need to import your counter component here. Okay, so you need to have a counter component inside your app component. Okay, so you need to create 2 files. One is counter.js and app.js, and inside your app.js you need to your counter.js. Okay, so that's the thing. So inside your counter component, so this is the vital part. You need to have 3 buttons. Okay, so basically 3 buttons. One is increment, one is decrement, and one is reset. Okay, 3 buttons. Okay, and you need to have a state called, so inside your state you need to have a state called count. Okay, so initially it should be 0. So how it is like this, it should be something like this. Okay, count equal to 0, something like this. Okay, you need to mention in this way. Okay, so count equal to 0, there should be a count value here. So now when you need to create a buttons here, right? So whenever you click on increment, you should write a function called increment here, something like we created click me here, right? Change me here, right? Same way you need to write a function called increment. Okay, inside increment what you need to do is you need to increment your state value, right? So count to count plus 1, something like this. Okay, so some example. Same way for decrement. Okay, so you need to use something called count equal to count minus 1. Okay, and for reset function you need to have something like count equal to directly 0. Okay, because this is going to reset here, right? So count can be 0. So this is how your counter component should look like. Okay, so you need to have 3 buttons. Okay, increment, decrement, and reset. Whenever you click on the increment button, it should call your increment function that you wrote here. Okay, same way for decrement, it should call decrement function. Okay, you need to call the decrement function here. Same way when you click on reset button, it should call your reset function here. And you need to display with a paragraph tag here, the count value that we mentioned here. Okay, so count equal to something like this dot state dot count. Okay, so this is the task for you. Okay, so what you need to achieve here is, inside your index.js, you will have your app.js. Okay. Inside your app component, you will have your counter component. What will you have in a counter component? You should have count equal to 0 in your state. Okay. Initially, it should be 0. So inside your render function, you need to have these things. What are the things? Count, and the particular count value should be displayed. So initially, it should be count equal to 0 here. You need to have 3 buttons. One is increment, decrement, and reset. When you click on increment button, you should modify the state to count plus 1, the state plus 1, and the decrement, and the same the reset. Your value should be modified here as well, in the UI as well. Okay. So this is the task for you. Very simple. You can easily achieve it. Okay. Clear on the task? I will ask at least 2 people or at least 5 people to demo tomorrow. Okay. So please do try this. App.js has to do what? No, app.js is to hold your counter component. Okay. So inside your app component, there should be only counter component here. Simple. Okay. Nothing other than that. You need to have some root component. So I just told to have app component here. Yes, evening only. So it will be evening, I think, until next week, or like this month fully. It should be in. I'm not sure about that, but that's the case here. Okay. So this is the task for you today. Please try out these things. Okay. So if you don't try it will be very difficult for you to understand later point of view. Practice the things on that day itself. Okay. So that only will be helpful for you. Okay. So that's the thing. I will share you these things. And the feedback form is here. Okay. Please fill out the feedback if you have any. Okay. So if you have any questions, please do ask me tomorrow. I can clear your doubts. So that's not an issue. Okay. Yeah. Thank you guys. And do you need this particular sample? Okay. I will do that. So what the thing here is, if I share this, you will not try from your scratch. Okay. So that's why I'm not sharing this. So it's not like I can easily share it. Okay. But okay, I'll share it, but please try yourself and then refer to the file that I gave. Okay. So whenever you get a doubt, then only you should open that particular file. Okay. So that is the only request that I have for you. So I will share that particular file. So counter class, counter functional, index.js. Okay, simple. Okay, I have shared you 3 files. Okay, please don't look at it. Okay, try on yourself. Start writing from scratch. Okay, so in your index.html, yeah, it's not like you can have only div id itself. Okay, so even you can have it in this way also. It will work as expected. See, so only thing is, see, it will add your head and everything. Okay, so only thing is, you need to have your div id root here. Okay, index.html. You can have any name here. Only thing is, in index.js, you need to type in from the scratch. Then only you need to understand. Okay. So React DOM will have a function called render. It takes 2 params. One is your what is the element that you want to place, where you want to place. Okay. You can have any names here. The same name should be mentioned here, and the thing that you want to have it here. Okay. And whenever you create a class component, it should be extending from your class here, something called React class component class from your React. Okay. And if you want to use state and other things, you need to use constructor, and you can have any functions here. But render method is must. Okay. And you need to return some elements inside that. Okay. And by default, you are going to export them. Okay. Same way for functional component, it's just a normal function. You just need to have a return statement. It should render some HTML elements inside that. Okay, so that's the thing. So class is very minimal. Okay, please try yourself. Okay, please don't look into the reference that I shared. Okay, that's the request that I have for you. Okay, see you tomorrow. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you. Bye bye. And please don't forget to fill in the feedback form. Okay. So, yes. Bye bye.